getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Greetings, race fans, and buckle up for tonight's presentation of Sim Racers Group Formula 4 on SMB. JR Gregory here with you on the call, along with my partner Kennen Miller and our producer Racing Ron Maunz. And week 6 takes us from Austin, Texas, across the Big River to Mexico City, and a brand new addition to iRacing, the gorgeous Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, located in Mexico City, named after brothers Ricardo y Pedro Rodriguez, who both tragically died behind the wheels of race cars, albeit 9 years apart. Hosted its first Formula One Grand Prix all the way back in 1962, and has continued to do so off and on in various iterations in the intervening years, and of course is hosting the Mexican GP this weekend. And this track is past and current host to such names as WEC, IMSA, Rolex, NASCAR, Trans Am, and in 2002 a kart race was held here in front of a record 400,000 spectators. Today's configuration: 2.7 miles, 4.3 clicks, 17 corners. Our fast lap of 1:17.774 was set in 2021 by Valtteri Bottas in a Mercedes W12. So Kennen, interestingly, this track began life as a thesis project drawn up by university student Oscar Fernandez in 1953. And Fernandez's brilliant design is home to every kind of corner imaginable, some brutal curbs, and some kind of mysterious track limit. So what are you expecting out of these guys and gals tonight?
I'm expecting, JR, for the drivers to be tested fully to their limits today. It's a very challenging 17-turn course. Like you said, it was designed in 69. It's definitely got a lot of older tendencies to it than we see with more of the newer tracks that do seem to have a little more flow that you can carry the speed through the middle of the corner. So it's a little bit of some awkward turns. They'll certainly have a lot of fun time going through a very famous part, the Foro Sol Stadium section that drives straight through essentially what was once a baseball field, and the very tight and tricky section as well. It's very hard to get the car to go all the way from the left back to the right, but you'll see a lot of time made up right there leading onto the front straightaway. So it's a very handful mix of corners. It's a very fast speedway. It's going to provide for really good racing, and it's really going to allow the most technical drivers to shine at the top.
Yeah, very interesting track, and we're taking a look at Isaac Ammon right now rolling through the stadium section that Kennen mentioned. And if you've seen F1 coverage here, this right here is definitely one of the coolest moments in a Formula One race as those cars shoot the gap in between the stands there, leaving the stadium section. But yeah, Kennen, you're absolutely right. A very technical track is going to expose the drivers who have not had enough time to practice up. And looking at the timing tower right now, you know how I like to bracket our drivers. I've only got 5 cars right now within 1 second of the same time, and only 11 within 2 seconds. So a very, very difficult track to master. And part of it is because the track limits around here are just nuts. You can be 4 wheels off in a couple places and can barely kiss the curb in a couple other places. And it really takes a lot of practice to find consistent pace around here. So it could be a little bit rough and tumble here in Mexico City. Our frequent flyers are lingering up at the top. We have Edgar Lau, James McDonald, Hirsch, Navas, and Duvall right now are the top 5 in practice, and pretty respectable intervals between those two, but those intervals start to add up pretty quick as we go down the list.
Yeah, absolutely. It really spreads out the field a lot here. This track is kind of meant for that. It's certainly much more on the driver's track than we expect to see the side-by-side or some of the train-style racing that we've seen at other places that we go with the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 series. So it'll be interesting. I don't think we'll have a competitive race by far, but it's going to be just a handful of drivers at the top. And this track certainly has some good passing opportunities. There's definitely some low-speed corners that come off of some fast straightaways that you'll have an opportunity to make a lunge on the inside. It's just going to be a matter of whether you can really sustain it for the full lap to make a decent breakaway from the cars you're passing. So drivers will have their hands full. It should be quite an interesting race. The Formula 4 car really does find a nice mix of performance and power versus the technicalities that this track provides.
Yeah, the mechanical grip and downforce definitely a bonus around here. I've raced a couple of GT races in GT4 and GT3, and those cars just kind of feel lumbering heavy and very greasy out here in places. So the Formula cars definitely do a better job. And we're taking a look now at Edgar Lau, and Kennen mentioned a couple drivers at the top. Lau sitting at the very top right now, only 10 1,000ths behind him to McDonald and 6 1,000ths to her. So those three likely going to be putting on a show and fighting for that P1.
Yeah, that's what you'll see at the top, and maybe a really good 3-car race for everything, and then let fourth get settled down behind. The tracking conditions right now, it's kind of a weirdly cool day so far, and with a little bit of high humidity. It was about 67 degrees and 95% humidity. It's got the track temperature kind of sitting a little wonky. I think it's a little greasier out there than the drivers would prefer with that high humidity. So you can kind of see the clouds and the fog that the drivers are coming through here on the front straightaway. I think it's kind of making track conditions a little bit of a mess while they're out there trying to find grip in practice.
Yeah, the humidity definitely not helping, but the drivers are getting a bit of a break here with that 68-degree track temp. And I'm guessing if you watch the F1 race here this weekend, it's going to be a couple clicks higher than that. But practice winding down here. We're about to jump into an open qualifying session. About 2 minutes remaining, though, here in this practice session. And Ron, maybe we can take a look at the season points as we wait for this session to wind down. And there we go. Jose Navas up front. Pretty interesting list here for the season points. Navas has not won one yet, but he has been very, very consistent. And as Navas from Chia, from Guyton, your top three. And look at how tightly packed those points are. 59, 57, 56. A couple people tied at 53, a couple tied at 50. So round 6, we are halfway through the season, and some good fighting there. It's Hirsch and Duvall rounding out the top 5. Then Bashir, Meyer, Lau, Posada, and Van Wagner rounding out the top 10, and then David Borden in 11, Hyde, Vase, Hagen, and Trantham for the round out the top 15. Then Ammon, Samudio, and Ken Glasser there in P18, and probably a couple more there. There's Win, Chang, Sai Nathan, E-Step, a few other folks who have scored points. So I'll let you read through that yourself. But those are our championship standings, very, very tight up front. And as we have grown to expect in the Sim Racers Group series, very, very competitive, and a lot of people still in it to win it, and plenty of time left to make something happen.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of those drivers that have gotten one to the top of the point standings. They've done a good job and shown a lot of speed in certain places, but just not had the consistency that Jose Navas has brought to the table this year. So he's certainly poised himself as the front runner to get the championship this season. And once we see in a couple weeks, I think we'll have the drop weeks sort of start to take effect, and we can see where that falls. But right now, he's proven consistency over having one good race. He's really putting together top 3 finishes darn near all season.
Yeah, and you got to be in it to win it. So if you're in a league situation like this and you can linger around top 5, top 3, and consistently do that week after week, you'll definitely creep up into the podium positions, and a really good way to make something happen over the long term. But it looks like our qualifying session is about to begin here. And if you have not been with us before, Sim Racers Group has open qualifying, which I'm a big fan of. It is more like real life, of course. They don't clear the track and let you go out alone for quali, and also throws in a little bit of extra strategy, a couple long straights here at Kennen, where you can pick up a couple tenths here and there, and that could definitely impact our grid.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the front straightaway, it can be not so much as important on the ending of your lap, but really getting a hot start running into turn 1. It's such a long straightaway, especially with these Formula 4 cars. The draft is going to be massive, especially at getting a fast qualifying time. I don't think it will be as important in the race because there is so many opportunities throughout a lap that you can pull away from drivers. But definitely when you're trying to run one hot lap, you're going to really rely on the timing of that front straightaway.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of that front straight in turn 1, really interesting design. And as we said, this track was designed by a university student as part of a thesis project over 50 years ago. And that student, Oscar Rodriguez, did a phenomenal job. But part of the design that I find interesting, Kennen, we were here with Sim Racers Group Formula 3 a couple of weeks ago, is that turn 1 pass is not as easy as it looks due to the design. You can definitely work the draft, get the inside of turn 1, but there's an immediate left-hander followed by another right after that. Very difficult to make those turn 1 passes stick, and really kind of adds an interesting twist when you really think you have the draft, you've got the position on the inside there in turn 1, and all of a sudden you're kind of getting squeezed out of turn 3, which is the exit onto the next short straight. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is one of those areas where you can kind of get in a game of back and forth and maybe kind of bait the car in front of you to take the inside going into 1 to defend. And that's really your best bet. If you can get on the left side of a car through turn 1, it puts you in an optimal position to come out of turn 4 with the pass. If you go on the inside, you're absolutely right. You just have to slow the car down so much and turn it so hard. It really wears on the tires. You get so slow. It's hard to really carry any momentum on the exit. And you find yourself just kind of stuck back behind again.
Yeah, too right. And at the risk of beating that dead horse, tire wear definitely going to be a thing here. Some heavy braking, some acceleration zones out of low-speed corners. So both the fronts and the rears going to be subjected to a lot of wear during this one. And in terms of the design, there are so many interesting features on this one. It has kind of like that long winding section that's reminiscent of Coda or Suzuka. It has those weird kind of unnatural angles that you would not ever really see on public roads, kind of reminiscent of Coda as well. And last time we were here, Charles pointed out it kind of reminded him of Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, and I can definitely see that with those concrete barriers so close to the track and a couple of high-risk spots associated with those. So super interesting track, and really quite curious to see how this one is going to unfold. And you can see Lau there showing some purple sectors here already. Certainly the favorite to make something happen on the pole, so we'll keep an eye on him. Although it does take a lap or two, Kennen, for these tires to hit their sweet spot in terms of temperature.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect the first lap out here to be the fastest that we see today, especially with the conditions starting to kind of improve, especially getting a little sun on the track. I think will help these drivers in the cars compared to the cool cloudiness that we've seen so far. So Edgar Lau about to come across the line. We'll see what he put down for a lap time. And oh no, was that Hirsch we were just looking at? Maybe I misread the time board, or maybe it was not qualified there for Edgar Lau.
Yeah, I think our timing board glitched out there just for a second, because Lau did have a time on my board briefly, and he's now completely vanished. And I'm showing David Hirsch sitting in provisional P1 with a 1:45.070 with a massive 2-second gap back to Borden in P2. Early here, of course, only about a third of the way through with 10 minutes to go. Tires still kind of getting up in their sweet spot, but not sure what happened to Lau there in terms of the timing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It looks like the time must have been disallowed for a off track somewhere, which, like I said, there's some areas you can really get away with it if you know the track, but most of it is pretty strict around this course. So I have a feeling he just got himself a little too wide in one of the corners. It looks like he's still on a good hot lap here so far, second time around.
Yeah, and holy moly, look at those intervals. And this one, pretty long track, Kennen, a pretty kind of modest sized field of about 20 cars, and a big disparity in these lap times. We could be having somewhat of a track day here in Mexico City as the race unfolds. But hopefully we'll have some action up front. We saw during practice just a couple of the tiniest ticks separating the top three cars. And again, we haven't seen Lau, but there's Hirsch with about a 1:45 flat. So you got to like him to be towards the pointy end of the field once the qualifying's over here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll be up for a good race today. The one thing that it always seems to challenge these drivers in the Formula 4 series is even when we get to tracks where cars will get spread out, it's maybe not as bunched up as we always prefer to see at some tracks. It's so difficult. It's really easy to spin out on your own. And we see races here all the time. I think of Indianapolis just a season or two ago, the leader losing it on the final corner. And there's a lot of different things can happen that you can lose the rear end all on your own. It doesn't necessarily require the contact of another driver at this track. So it'll be an interesting race. It'll probably get flipped on its head. It's something we do talk about a lot, but minimizing mistakes is certainly a way you can be successful here.
Yeah, absolutely right. And this is a developmental league, so there are a number of features that kind of encourage that. Damage is off. So you see some little wall hits here that would normally destroy one of these things and put it on the flatbed back to the pit. And these cars will repair themselves so the drivers can keep going. So as I said, educational developmental league, they are trying to get these drivers safe and consistent, get them fast enough to move up into the next level, which is Formula 3, which we also cover here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We'll be back with those F3 cars at Hungaroring tomorrow. But here we go, the pointy end of our field now starting to get in a groove here. Lau's turned in a 1:44.7, about 3/10 behind him as Hirsch. About 3/10 behind Hirsch is McDonald, and about 8/10 behind them is Duvall, or actually, that's the gap from the leader. So the gaps are actually a lot closer than that. So I've got about 4 cars within 1 second right now. And lap's pretty long, though, Kennen. So every qualifying lap here is going to be valuable, and you don't want to throw anything away.
Yeah, and just looking at what they're running compared to their practice times, Edgar Lau and David Hirsch are top 2. They're still sitting about half a second off of what their fastest was in practice. So I would imagine there's still a lot of time out there being found. We do see it with the tracks when we discuss track limits that a lot of times in qualifying, you just find that fine line pushing so hard. It's very difficult to achieve what you did in practice, especially without being able to take that little extra bit of the racetrack by overusing the track limit. So I don't know if they've really quite maxed out at what their fastest lap times will be over the next 7 minutes while we finish up the qualifying session, but I think they're definitely getting there to the fastest they're at.
Yeah, and you're right. They very well could be kind of driving conservatively and getting some bankers down, but as the race gets going here, we'll keep an eye on those S's particularly. The track limits on those S's are just bonkers. It feels like you can go 4 wheels outside the white line in a couple spots, and it's not an off. So kind of the opposite. The Rodriguez brothers here, kind of the opposite of Carlos Paz, for example, where if you breathe on the white line, you rack up a 1X. So, and whoop, there's a little over rotation there by Walker Fulch, and that is not the last time we're going to see that right there. It is super tough. That's coming down off of that long pit straight, braking hard into turn 1 and trying to use the brakes to rotate there, and tough to put the power down there as well out of that slow corner. So there's a high chance of kerfuffletude, I'm going to call it there, in that 1-2-3 complex coming off the pit straight.
Yeah, it seemed like maybe Alex there just kind of got himself a little too hard on the brakes when the rear end went around for Walker. I don't know if he really overdrove it, or maybe there's just too much steering input. That seemed like a very interesting spin, as much as turn 1 does create issues. And there you see Guyton getting everything off of the corner going through 1. He gets through really clean. That's about as good of a first section we've seen so far since we've gone live with this broadcast.
Yeah, Guyton looking smooth there, leaving quite a bit of track on the table there, though. That green stuff on that exit is all fair game. So he did leave something on the table. And let's see, where is he right now? And it could be that the reason he's leaving stuff on the table right now, Guyton has not set a valid lap yet, and only about 5 minutes remaining, so he's only going to have 2 or 3 more attempts to get on the board, or he's going to be starting at the back of the field with a lot of work to do. And look at him test those track limits right here. You can go way into the black asphalt right there. You can get a huge bite of this green. You get a huge bite of the black there on the inside of that stripe curb. So this track really nuts. If you haven't driven it, pretty interesting to drive, but definitely takes a significant amount of time to learn it, more so than a lot of tracks.
Yeah, I haven't had the time to go out and try it with a open wheel car, but I have done several races with the GTs and sports cars, and it's a real handful there trying to move such a big, heavy car through some of those corners. The open wheel cars are certainly more suited to handle those, and you could see with that beautiful onboard shot just how hard he was working to get through the S's with the wheel. It's just such an awkward little combination. You almost have to commit to the corner without really knowing that the car is going to grip, and then you see there, just like Aaron Van Wagner slamming over the curbs. It's a lot more wheel input than you'd really like to put into a car like this, and it's really the only way you can get through. It's too tight to use the power to get the car around. It's really too slow that the brakes really aren't going to do anything to keep the car turned. You just have to rely on the wheel and wait till the car gets straight to get back onto the power.
Yeah, and you see Van Wagner taking a big bite of that yellow curb there. Pretty sure that was fair game. And way outside there, that's also all inbounds. And I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I just find it fascinating how much leeway they give you. That grass that he just drove through, completely inbounds. The green there, the black there. So Van Wagner has been studying his track limits here to see if he takes a big bite of this left-hander, leaves a little bit of that on the track, but doing a pretty good job flogging that F4 car, and hopefully he'll get a time down this time. Well, actually, he has set one. Van Wagner sitting in P10 currently with a 146.8. And we'll see if he can improve on that as this qualifying going by very, very quickly.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of the longer tracks we go to on the circuit, so there's only so many hot laps that you're going to be allowed to maximize, maybe 5 or 6 at most if you go out right away. So it's proving very difficult to get a lap time in for some drivers. We see most everybody does have a lap on the board, but a lot of drivers I don't think have anything near the kind of lap they feel like they could put down on the board. So it's tough. If you make a mistake, you really lose a lot of time and having to get another out lap and another attempt at a hot lap.
Yeah, and taking a look at our intervals there in our SDK timing tower in the upper left of your screen. And remember, those amber or orange intervals are all intervals under a half a second. Then the yellow is half a second to 1 second. So timing tower now actually looking pretty good in terms of the times tightening up a little bit here as qualifying winds down. A couple outliers in there, but there could definitely be some movers and shakers here early. And while track position is important, Kennen, I think if I was in this one, I would consider being aggressive early, trying to make some moves early, and then playing some defense down the stretch.
Oh, absolutely. This racetrack is really no other choice but to go 100% from the start. You can't allow the race to settle in and think you get through the first 5 minutes and then you can start progressing your way through the field. There's too many corners. It's very easy to get yourself stuck behind traffic in front of you and very much find yourself very far behind the top leaders in a very quick hurry. So it'll be a difficult run down to turn 1. I think it'll be pretty exciting, but just seeing whether they can get through turn 1 clean and who can really make an aggressive move, it can really position you to have a good finish. It's very difficult to recover from a bad lap 1.
Yeah, and Swami says in regards to that 1, 2, 3 complex that we're watching Meyer wheel through right now, that there is going to be some F4 yard sale parts available right there, perhaps off the start or definitely throughout this one. Very, very tough section. It's very tempting to try to go side by side through part of that, and it can definitely take a turn for the worse. And by the way, James McDonald has displaced Edgar Lau for provisional pole right now with only about 25 seconds remaining. McDonald with a 1:44.719, about 40 thousandths ahead of Edgar Lau, and David Hirsch there hanging around about 1,500, so let's call it, behind Lau. So those top 3 looking pretty racy right now. Duvall has joined up front as well. And taking a look at Ammon, and right here, Kennen, that blue right there, you can go 4 wheels right there, speaking of track limits, completely across the red and white stripe curb, and that's kind of the exit line out of that section. So wild track limits here, and we'll see how many of the drivers try to dip their toes in that. But the checker is out, and anybody who has not crossed the finish line yet, their qualifying is done. If people have laps going, they will be allowed to complete that. So qualifying is going to wind on a little bit longer, maybe a track map, and we can figure out who is still out and where they are currently. It looks like we've got I don't know, 6 or 7 cars still circulating, but as it is right now, it's McDonald from Lau from Hirsch on your provisional pole, be followed by Duvall, Brashear, Van Wagner, Schwartz, Navis, Borden, and Posada for the top 10. And looks like, who are we looking at before? It looks like Guyton managed to put a time down, got himself a P11. Ryan Chia, who's on the season podium right now, qualifying in P12. Meyer as well, usually see him toward the pointy end of the field sitting at P13. So this track throwing a lot of curveballs at these drivers. It is brand new to the iRacing service this season, and takes a significant amount of time to master. So we're seeing the results of that right here, but we're going to have your starting grid for you here in a moment from Mexico City.
Yeah, and we'll have to see Edgar Lau here. I think he may still be on a timed lap. He's coming across the front straightaway now, but I don't know if that was a lap or not. We'll have to see if the timing board changes at all. It seemed like it would have been right at the last second if he crossed the line, and it doesn't look like he improved his time, so maybe it wasn't.
They scored that when he only got another extra. He was 100th off of his previous fast lap, but he did have a crack at that one. They did score that lap. But all right, well, we are about to get underway from Mexico City. We're going to have that starting grid up for you here in just a moment, waiting for the iRacing universe to tick over here. And what a beautiful track! And as our graphics cards get more expensive, Kennen, and our computers get better, these scans get better and better. And this one is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, this one is really a fully complete course. It's got all the little details that you really expect you don't see in some of the older first generation courses that iRacing once initially came out with. And I was fortunate enough to upgrade my PC machinery a couple months ago, and yeah, it makes a world of difference. It's amazing just how many objects are on this track, and it is really a beautiful track to drive. It's a fun track to do, and certainly if one you don't have in your inventory on iRacing, one to get.
Yeah, and don't forget Formula One out here this weekend, and you'll want to tune in for that. But here is your starting grid. It's going to be James McDonald in the front row, lined up next to Edgar Lau. Behind them, it's David Hirsch and Adam Duvall. In row 3, it's Thomas Brashear and Aaron Van Wagner. Then Alex Schwartz next to Jose Navas. David Borden will line up next to Diego Posada. Rounding out your top 10, then it's Jacob Guyton lined up next to Ryan Chia. Then it's going to be Meyer next to Walter Foltz. Tyler Hagan will line up next to Ken Glasser in row 8. Then Embry Hyde next to Isaac Amon. That is Vase next to Estep in 19 and 20. Then we have Albert Diaz, Cy Nathan, and Rudy Sumudio there in the back, and they may not all grid. There may have been a couple drivers out for practice. That part is not super clear to me, but we are going to find out here in a second. We got about a minute remaining before iRacing forces the start if we're missing some drivers. But that is McDonald there in the yellow 22 car to the right hand of your screen. So Lau will have the theoretical advantage of the inside line into turn 1, but turn 1 is a long way down the track, Kennen, and there's going to be some shuffling of this grid before we get anywhere near turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be no surprise to see them 4 or 5 abreast going into turn 1. I've got my eyes on 8th position. The 4-car Jose Navas really did not have the qualifying he wanted, about a second off pace, only turned to 146.312. He's got a lot more pace than that, and certainly our points leader, I expect to see him maybe make a interesting move in turn 1, try and get some early positions.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, even when you're a little bit off pace because you lack familiarity, there's no better time to gain familiarity than right now in traffic off the start. Get behind somebody who knows the track better than you and follow them as best you can. But the lights are up, and that is McDonald there in the 2-2 yellow to your right, and we are underway in Mexico City, and some lane changing going on the back. Not a lot of position swapping that I can see so far. McDonald gets off clean. Lau will tuck in behind him and try to get that slipstream working here right away on the lead lap. And McDonald tries to cover off the inside, doesn't quite get it done. Lau is going to try that inside move into turn 1, but as I said, very difficult to make it stick. You're going to see why right here as Lau gets squeezed out of the exit of turn 2, but does make it stick. It is Lau from McDonald from David Hirsch, and things looking fairly clean right now. They got through that 1-2-3 complex admirably. So good job for the field, and we are underway.
Yeah, everybody seemed to have a nice start. Didn't see a whole lot of position changes, but there's Jose Navas up to 7th. You see him side by side fighting with Alex Schwartz right now as they're all kind of in quite a little jam there in the middle of the pack. But a very interesting move by Edgar Lau. It looked like he was content to settle in for second on the restart. James McDonald definitely had a better start than him, but opted to go outside and make the move in turn 1 and see if he can maybe run away with the lead. Those two have clearly been the fastest between practice and qualifying so far, and they just need to play it safe and make it a mano-a-mano race by the end.
Yeah, and a good job by Lau seizing the opportunity. It's a little tough making something happen on cold tires off the start, but Lau got it done, and you can see it is benefiting him already. He's already stretched that gap back to McDonald up to about 0.8. And meanwhile, in the bad news category, it looks like Glasser might have jumped that start, and we'll go back and take a look and see what happened with him. But Glasser showing a black flag and on his way to a drive-through, and think about the only way that could happen at this stage of the race is a jump start. And there is Sumudio there. He has had some kind of incident or is visiting the woman in the pink top there on the wall. Not sure what happened with Sumudio. We're going to get a replay of it right here. And oh my goodness, yeah, just a little bit took a little bit too big of a bite at that apex there. Car lost traction as it went airborne over that curb, and around he goes. And it does take a couple laps, folks. These tires are not up to temp just yet, as we see Schwartz taking a very wide line there out of turn 3.
Yeah, this track will definitely get quicker and quicker as the race goes on. It'll start to retract a little bit as we get into the final 5 laps, but certainly this track lends towards taking some time to get it up to temperature, finding the right grip. We'll start to see things go further and further. Kind of surprised James McDonald has let Edgar Lau get out by about half a second. He is hanging on pretty well, and I guess we haven't really seen too much of how the draft's going to work yet, so McDonald may be able to kind of hold on tight, and Hirsch is staying tucked in right behind him.
Yeah, and McDonald actually winding that gap down a little. It had been 0.8, 0.9 in that first lap, and McDonald pedaling hard here, does not want Lau to get away, and has got it back down to about 0.4. Let's see how they do through this stadium section. This is one of those technical sections that can show people who have spent time on course, and let's see if McDonald goes into the blue there. And no, he doesn't. And pro tip, kids, that is part of the track. And there's Van Wagner. Oof. Did not want that to happen, and Van Wagner trying to back out of traffic there, but a little over rotation, and taking those cuts are faster, Kennen. But every time you hop over that curb, it unsettles the car a little bit. So every time you gain those extra tenths, cutting those corners, you take a risk of a spin, and Van Wagner bitten there.
Yeah, absolutely. These curbs are very tough at this track. They're either high curbs, and if they're not a high curb, then they're generally a very bumpy curve. And that being one of the faster mid-corner speed parts of the track, he's just carried a little too much speed, trying to get everything out of it, and just watch the end go around. He's by far our biggest loser so far in the race, down 9 positions off of where he started. He's going to have quite a bit of a time in the last 15 minutes trying to recover.
Well, and Lau that time crushing that 1, 2, 3 combos. Look at that gap now. It's about 1.5 seconds, and Hirsch has gotten through. It was actually a second back to McDonald, and the wheels kind of fallen off for McDonald there. There's a couple of left, right, left, or right, left, right. They're reversed in a row there, and those 2 combos in a row biting McDonald. He's now 2 seconds off of Lau when he had been reeling him in. And taking a look back in the midfield, that is Vase. He's got Guyton ahead, Van Wagner behind, as a little train forming up here. And we do get these kind of draft trains in courses with long straightaways. And actually, Kennen, I wouldn't be surprised if they were picking up a little bit of a draft right here through this S section. Ooh, as you see Van Wagner taking a huge bite out of the inside, and that might be a slowdown.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's going to have to find a way to give that back somewhere. There's no way he gets through that without a time penalty, but he may be able to do a little bit with this traffic up front to give it back and not have to lose the position. So interesting little 4-car battle. You can see Survey's not necessarily happy with seeing how that move happened, so he's tucking in right behind and certainly giving Van Wagner a pretty good run onto the front straightaway. So that's kind of an interesting move. That's twice, I think, in that section now. Van Wagner lost it the first time, second time pushing it and kind of cutting the course. And there you see on the front stretch, he has to back off and gives the position back to Vase. So all is well. Van Wagner having a very difficult start to this race, though.
Yeah, Van Wagner, definitely nothing to write home about from Mexico City right now, except a loss of 10 after really fighting his way up to make something happen during qualifying. Qualifying got up to kind of a rough start. He recovered, put himself at P11, and is now put himself on P6 rather, is now plummeted all the way to 16. So very, very tough track here at Mexico City, and you're really seeing it. And Lau driving away right now, 2.5 second gap back to Hirsch, and Hirsch has dropped James McDonald to about 1.5 seconds. So even the top 3 we were hoping might be a fight there up front, but even that one falling apart now. Looking at Hagen, he's got Vase behind him, Fultz and Van Wagner. So a little train forming between those cars for P13.
Yeah, and Edgar Lau really just turned on the jets, and McDonald has really kind of started to fall back. Adam Duvall has just overtaken him. So very interesting there. Adam Duvall did have good speed in qualifying. He's still showing the consistency, but seems like James McDonald is maybe just lost a little bit of pace that he once had. Maybe a little bit of confidence. You see, he locked up the front tires there. Locked up the front tires going into the stadium section. Really opened the door for Adam Duvall to take third. So he's got to kind of resettle himself. He's starting to fall back. He's still not in a bad position. Running very good in the top 5, but you don't want to watch that continue the rest of the race. You're going to kind of have to just play it smart, get yourself recouped, and see if anybody up front maybe makes some mistakes.
Yeah, and McDonald, the second fastest man on the track right now, less than a tenth off of our current fast lap held by David Hirsch. So he has the pace, but just a couple of errors there. Very easy to get your confidence shaken around here. You're taking pretty significant risks on every lap, and that can kind of build up on you and build up the nerves and cause you to lose some confidence and be less willing to take some of those chances. But yeah, McDonald down 3 and allowed Lau, Hirsch, and Duvall each to move up 1, and now he's got who is that? Schwartz sniffing around behind him, about a second gap behind. But McDonald probably not at all happy with the way the first 8 minutes have gone here.
Yeah, no, it's not maybe what he expected, but he still hasn't lost the race. He hasn't done anything to spin out or really put him in the back like we've seen happen with Aaron Van Wagner. So he's just got to regroup. Schwartz is in quite a difficult battle with Jose Navas right now, and Navas is kind of taking a peek on him. We'll see if he goes for it with the outside lunge getting into the stadium section. He's kind of trying to take away the wide line, and we'll see if that maybe works. But then Navas has got a look from Thomas Brashear. No, David Borden underneath him. Wow, that's incredible. Jose Navas goes to look and make a pass on Alex Schwartz and finds himself getting passed by David Borden with the time cost. And that's a pretty good little trio battle we've got. I think that'll stick the rest of the race.
Yeah, and, Navas trying something in that very, very tricky technical low-speed section, and it's so easy, Kennen, in that low-speed stuff to lose massive chunk of time. Borden was probably the last thing on his mind as he was looking to execute a pass on Schwartz, and now he's got Borden between him and Schwartz, and it's certainly not over, but Borden putting on a pretty good drive here, having moved up 3 positions, riding along with Posada now, looking back at Greg Meyer, and he's got Ryan Chia behind as well. So a pretty good train forming there for P9 from some of our very competitive and fast drivers in this grid, currently lingering around the bottom of the top 10, but looking to move up and plenty of time to do so. 10 minutes remaining.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few different packs. We've got these couple like we're highlighting here with Meyer and Posada and Ryan Chia, and then same with Borden Schwartz and Jose Navas. Times are starting to kind of come together. You're sort of seeing the pack sort of formate. They're not going to be able to really utilize too much of the draft. They'll probably catch up much more. So that really is what the race they've got for the final 10 minutes of this. And it'll be interesting to see. You don't want to get yourself too much in over your head and have a mistake. You're only halfway through the race.
Yeah, and Meyer looking very racy right there. He's got Posada down to about 2/10. And up front, there is Adam Duvall. Has got James McDonald trying to claw his way back up into P3. It looks like Borden has just gotten past Schwartz, but he may have done that by cutting the course there. Was not clear to me who went off. Oh, and a little contact there. Sure looked like. And this one going to blows here. That's the fight between Schwartz, Navas, and Borden for P5. Right now, the timing tower says that Schwartz is leading that one, but somebody had to have gotten a slowdown through the stadium section right there.
Yeah, I think like we're seeing the yellow block next to Schwartz's name on the leaderboard. He's certainly got a time penalty, and yeah, it's still there, I think. I don't know if he's going to try and maybe slow it down in turn 1 to give the time penalty back. As we know in iRacing, there are some meticulous ways you can really give back the cutting the corner without just having to fully lift off and hard brake. So I don't think he did. Now they're issuing a black flag on him. So Alex Schwartz will probably have to come do a drive-by, possibly a stop, and go to serve that penalty. So, man, that's a real bummer. I know you get kind of excited wanting to race in the group you're with, but you got to obey the flags and make sure that you kind of check up and give the time back and allow yourself to fight another lap.
Yeah, absolutely brutal there. And Schwartz getting a little bit too cute trying to kill that slowdown. He let McDonald and Navas through, or Borden and Novice through, and then tried to execute a pass there into turn one, and that made him fail to kill that slowdown. Now he's looking at a drive through, so it is all over for Schwartz. Pretty significant gaps here in the field. He won't come out in last, but he's certainly not going to come out where he is right now in P7. So now it is going to be Novice and Borden for that P5, down to a 2-car battle. Same with Duvall and McDonald have kind of gone into a 2-car battle. And looking at Borden now, see Novice taking the blue stuff there. That is the line, believe it or not. You can go 4 wheels over the curb, and that's the exit of the stadium section. But let's see if Borden can get a run here. About 6/10, just at the edge of drafting range. He's not getting much of a tow here, so Novice safe for right now, and about 7 minutes remaining. And Novice has got to be feeling pretty good about his drive. He's up 3 positions after less than spectacular qualifying.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we highlight and talk about with Jose Navas every single week here is why he's the points leader. He puts together good, consistent finishes. We don't show him spinning out and losing control, finding himself far back in the pack. If he can get out of Mexico here with the top 5, worst case 6th place, that's going to still keep him atop the leaderboard and really get him into a good position, as I believe we're only 2 or 3 weeks away from when the drop points will really start to show the clearer picture of the pathway for the championship. So he's doing a fantastic job and getting the most that he can for a combination that you just aren't used to. And Ryan Chia sending a deep touch the grass and actually spins out. So fantastic looking lunge there on Greg Meyer and just touch the grass just a little bit. Those cars just really do not handle grass traction at all.
Yeah, Chia getting very racy with Meyer there. Looked like he had something going. Definitely wanted something out of that. And his reward is looping it. And now Meyer has dropped Chia to the tune of about 7 seconds. So a couple of our 3-car battles have shed the driver who was taking chances, trying to make something happen. So now we've got Novice and Borden about 4/10 apart. That's the 2 we're looking at right now. You see Novice take that nice wide line out of the stadium section there. Borden closer this time, much closer than last lap. He's already got it down to 0.1 here, and might want to breathe the throttle and wait to make a move until he can get a little more draft. But no, Borden's like, to hell with it, JR. I am punching it. And Borden will have the inside into turn 1. But as we showed before, very tough to make it stick here. And side by side still on that entry to turn 1. What is Novice going to do? Maybe an opportunity for an over-under here, and Novice will try that. Borden closes him off, though. Same move, same attempt right here, and Borden gets it done. Very good driving by both drivers, and pretty good racecraft by Borden to close off that over-under.
Yeah, that was really good. I thought he was maybe leaving a little bit too much of a width between Jose Navas going into turn 1, but managed to get the car to stick and has gotten it by pretty good. You see a little bit loose on exit there, but able to carry the speed and is actually kind of pulled away from Jose Navas the last few corners. I know, like we mentioned, Navas, I think, is trying to play a consistent game. He doesn't want to get himself caught up into a crash that he doesn't need to see happen. So he'll try and tag in behind and see if he can set himself up for another run, possibly as we're going down the front stretch again. This lap time is really winding down quickly. We're under 5 minutes left in the race, which can only be 3, at most 4 more complete laps.
Yeah, these laps flying by, and we're taking a look right now. That is Foltz. He's got Eamon all over him right there, and that is the battle for P16. Oh, my goodness. And, yeah, that a little optimistic move there as Eamon sends Foltz into the into the outfield there. Take another look at that. And I'm sure nothing intentional here, but Ammon just washing out right here. Well, yeah, that was a bit of a dive, a little over optimistic by Isaac on that one as he sends Foltz off course. And I'm kind of dying to know what's going on with Novice and Borden up front there. And yeah, here we are back with those two. So that is Borden leading Novice by about 5/10. And one thing I was noticing here, Kennen, is racecraft by Novice. He's kind of showing his nose to the inside and kind of luring Borden into covering the inside, and it's making him take a shallow line. He did it right here on the last lap. We'll see if it happens again, but trying to lure Borden into taking a shallow entry and maybe making something happen in one of these kind of low-speed chicanes. But very good racecraft, good respectful driving by both of these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. We somewhat touched on it in the practice session that you can really bait drivers here. There's a lot of combo corners where you want to be on the left side for one corner, and then you got to get back to the right side for the next corner. And you can kind of show your nose, get the car in front to maybe think you're willing to make that lunge. And just as long as you're close enough, sometimes you'll get them to bite, and they'll take the opposite line, and you can really be able to just find yourself getting a better run on exit and make the pass. So kind of smart strategy by Novice. He's still right on the tail of David Borden. I just wonder if he is in just waiting for a good moment to make the pass. And there you see he kind of looks to the outside. He doesn't want to give David Borden that full wide turn in, and that's going to allow Novice to get a lot better speed carried through 15 and 16. And here you see he'll have the run if he can get out of the final turn nicely. Looks like Borden carries the speed, though, but he's certainly in his toe. This is going to be an opportunity to make a pass going into one, I think. He's close enough. He should be there.
Yeah, Borden getting a little better run out of turn 17 there, the last corner onto the pit straight. But you see that draft going to work. It started about 3/10 and we'll have Novice side by side on the entry to turn one. Borden will cover the inside. Novice will try the outside here. And same dance they did last time. Borden covering, Novice trying to work the over-under and to no effect. And here is Posada getting past Greg Meyer in the same section coming off of that front straight, and Posada making it stick so far, but Meyer not giving up, still looking very racy. And I'm seeing something happen. My timing board just lit up. Looks like Novice and Borden were side by side there momentarily, but Borden hanging on now, and something must have happened that we missed. Borden stretched that gap out to about 1.7 now. And yeah, here is a replay. We're at that second section of chicanes, and Novice sets himself up very well, but just slightly overcooks that entry. He wanted to try the outside, took the brakes a little too deep, and almost had something going there. Novice knows that he's running out of time here. Only 1 minute remaining, and depending on where Lau is, I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll probably get one more lap. Oof, and that very wide there by Borden. That could be a slowdown. We'll have to see what happens with Borden there. That could be exactly what Novice wanted to see as Borden goes way over the line in that infield stadium section. We'll keep an eye on that battle. Novice has about 5/10 ahead to Borden, and the white flag is out. Lau did take the white flag. You see it right there. So smoke them if you got them, folks. Here comes McDonald on Adam Duvall. McDonald trying to get something back. Your pole sitter lost 3 positions right off the bat and is trying to get at least one of them back from Adam Duvall here. He will try the outside of turn 1 and does the same thing as Novice there. Takes the outside entry, overcooks it, and right behind that battle for P5 Borden versus Novice. Borden hanging on, but Novice right there with him, and things getting hot here. Those drivers see that white flag and they see red. It is Borden and Novice side by side into this second chicane. And what is Novice going to be able to do here? Same move he tried last time. This time, though, doesn't overcook that entry. Oh, and Borden and Novice coming together there. And we'll take another look at that. Borden might have turned into him there. It looked to me like Novice had position, but man, oh man, hate to see it come to blows like that. There was a great race between those two up until that point. And now Brashear has gotten through, and Brashear wants a crack at Novice after that contact, and he may well get it, Kennen, about 2/10 behind.
Yeah, Brashear's right on Borden. He's certainly got an opportunity to put some pressure on it. It did seem like he cut down into it, and here comes Edgar Lau through the final corner.
Yeah, and here comes Lau, completely dominated this one. It was not as close as that 1.3 second interval back to Hirsch would make it appear. So Lau from P2 is going to win this one. And here comes Borden leading Brashear and Novice. That is 5, 6, and 7. And some of the best racing that we saw out here tonight, Kennen, was for this 5, 6, 7 positions. And here comes Posada and Greg Meyer. Some good fighting between those two as well. So these drivers putting on a very good show here tonight on a very, very difficult Mexico City racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a super difficult race. We saw some really good competition. We kind of knew the front runners would sort of see themselves spread out. That's sort of the nature of the beast with this, but we had some really good mid-pack racing, and unfortunately, we did have some contacts all throughout the field. I know the steward's office is probably going to be up late tonight reviewing this race and having to settle some things out, as I know they may have a line at the door of some upset drivers between Novice and Walker Foltz and several other drivers that found themselves coming together. So that was quite interesting racing. It's what we expect from the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 series. It's always tight competition, and today really showed it once again.
Yeah, fantastic stuff out there, and had some big movers, which we'll get to in a second. But Borden, who you saw involved in all that fighting about the middle of the top 10, up 4 positions. Greg Meyer up 4. Sarah Vase up 7 positions, or her real hard charger from P19 all the way up to P12. So a great drive by him. Of course, some folks went the other direction as well. But I think our last couple of cars are coming across, and we're going to have the results for you here in a second. But yeah, great race here. There was some worry about whether folks were going to be able to efficiently get up to speed on this difficult track, and it looks like the Sim Racers Group drivers rose to the occasion and put on a hell of a show here, and a lot of them with some very, very good drives, particularly Lau. Looked good in practice, P2 in quali, and ended up pretty much driving away after making that pass into turn 1 on lap 1. So great job by him.
Yeah, and he really didn't have the season so far that he wanted, so it's nice to see him get a good finish today.
All right, well, here are your final results. It is Edgar Lau from David Hirsch from Adam Duvall on the podium, then James McDonald, your pole sitter, who struggled early but hung on for P4, then David Borden in P5, Thomas Brashear in 6, Jose Navas in P7, Diego Posada in P8, Greg Meyer in 9, Ryan Chia will round out the top 10. Then it is Van Wagner, Vase, Guyton, Schwartz, and Foltz rounding out the top 15. Then Isaac Ammon in P16, followed by Hyde, Glasser, Tyler Hagan, Estep, Diaz, Sumudio, and Cy Nathan, who I'm still not convinced took the grid, but looks like Sumudio did. I remember seeing him pulled over at the side of the track. So, Kennen, looks like we have a few people lingering around outside, and let's go ahead and have you open up the interviews with James McDonald coming across in P4.
Yeah, James McDonald, our pole sitter, we saw had a little bit of a tough opening laps, but had a really nice drive overall, recovered, finished P4. James, how would you describe your race today?
Man, I got to learn how to take turn 1 when I'm in the pole, because I did not defend the inside whatsoever.
Yeah, we noticed that on the broadcast. Edgar Lau looked like he was playing a little conservative, kind of tucked in behind you, and decided to utilize that draft and make the move into turn 1, and kind of left you from there. It was very competitive, and you obviously did have the fastest lap time in qualifying. Certainly slipped back a little bit, locking up the brakes about a third, fourth lap into the race. But overall, how do you feel like you did during the recovery drive? Managed to not fall back too far?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this was my first real race with SRG, and I just can't thank them enough for putting together this league. I built this whole rig about 6 weeks ago, and it's so much fun. But I found SRG, and then I found you guys broadcasting the SRG races, and it's a magical relationship between you two. So I'm just so excited that I didn't wreck the field in turn 2 or something like that and have to go home with my tail between my legs. I was happy to get 4th. I battled with Duvall the entire race, and by the end I just had absolutely no tires left. I hit him. I felt awful. I gave him the position back, and thankfully we were able to fight even a little bit more after that.
Yeah, we noted the race between you and Adam Duvall quite highly. It was pretty thrilling stuff, and Adam Duvall, he always brings good competition, and if that chassis is only about 6 weeks old, it looks like it's got quite a bit of good speed into it, and we're glad to have you here with the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. It's a blessing that we get the opportunity to broadcast them. Now, before we let you go today, anybody you'd like to give a shout-out to, thank you to for your race today?
Yeah, just a thank you to my father, who raced Formula Fords in like 1968 in England, and has probably waited his entire life for me to get into car racing, and I'm 46, so I guess I'll throw this one out to him.
Wow, that's super awesome. The Formula Ford's an awesome car to watch run, and especially back in those days, they were certainly no easier to drive than they are today. So welcome to the car racing group. We are glad to have you, James, and really well done today. Got the pole, was able to celebrate that, and still with a nice top 5 finish in position number 4 is a pretty good weekend. So we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great show.
Oh, thank you.
All right, that was your pole sitter and P4 finisher, James McDonald. And I'll tell you what, Kennen, why don't we just have you continue with David Hirsch?
All right, we got David Hirsch now started P3 after qualifying. Had a really nice run, managed to get the second step on the podium. Did not quite have enough for Edgar Lau today, but David, how would you describe your race today?
Hey guys, I'm actually really happy with how today went. Unlike last week when I was trying to keep up with Edgar when I spun out a few times, today I ran my own race and found my own pace eventually, and it kind of came to me as the race went on.
Yeah, this is certainly one of the more challenging technical tracks that we go to throughout the season in the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. You got a really nice run. You didn't have to deal with too many challenges from behind. What are you looking forward to as we go into next week? I don't have the schedule right in front of me. I forget where we're going.
I think we're going to Germany, if I'm not mistaken, but
I believe... Yeah, the Motorsports Oschersleben is where we'll be at next week. That's another difficult, tight track. How do you look going to see there?
you know, it's a tough one for me personally, but I haven't raced there yet in a Formula 4, but I've had a lot of fun in other series, so we'll see how it goes. It's a technical track as well, similar to this, and lots of long straights to draft behind, so a lot of change of positions, I'm sure.
Yeah, certainly. I think we'll see a little bit of a tighter field all throughout in next week's race. And before we let you go today, celebrating a nice P2 finish, who would you like to thank? Give a shout out to.
Yeah, first I'd like to shout out Jason and the entire crew at SRG, fostering such an incredible environment for sim racing. Second, thank you guys at Slow Motion Broadcasting for doing such a great job week in and week out. And finally, my partner Win for cheering me on and watching my races with me. So yeah, thank you guys.
Awesome. No, thank you. We wouldn't be able to do this without the performances you guys put on the track, and you guys always provide excellent racing. It really makes our job easy up here to be able to commentate it. So really well done today, David Hirsch. Nice P2 finish. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
All right. And David and everyone else, thank you so much for the kind words, and I'll echo what Kennen said. It is an absolute pleasure and an honor to be here with Sim Racers Group both Tuesday and Wednesday nights. But let's go ahead now and have a chat with Tyler Hagan. So Tyler, this track was a handful to learn. It is brand new. It is complicated. It has some weird boundaries, some vicious curbs, and it can be quite a handful. So how was your experience in Mexico City today?
Some practice running at F3 a couple weeks ago, so at least I knew which direction to turn, and I also knew which corners were going to be the likely, oh my goodness, we're all going to die on the first lap corners. So I checked up for those. It was actually ridiculously clean looked like through the field. And I had a good time until avoided somebody in straight line to chicane and got a 3.5 second slowdown that I served probably 12 seconds of. But iRacing said I missed by about 0.2 of a second. So had to go to a stop and go. And then I dropped back to 19th and just kind of finished almost DFL.
Oh, brutal. Yeah, there are, and folks, if you don't follow the racing abbreviations, DFL stands for definitely far from leading. But yeah, pretty clean race, Tyler, overall. We did have a couple of penalties, but they were related to slowdowns, penalties for slowdowns, and we had a jump start as well. But otherwise, the race was fairly clean. So your folks did a fantastic job here preparing for a race on a very, very difficult track. We got another kind of interesting one, Oschersleben, next week in Germany. So have you had a chance to run any laps out there? How do you think that one's going to go?
I don't think I've done any in the F4, but maybe I did one race in the F4, but I've done it several times in the FF 1600, and it is a really fun track. We'll see what kind of racing we get in the F4. This group is really great from week to week. Hard racing, wheel to wheel. Generally speaking, no big pileups, no hurt feelings. Just a great group to run with.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Well, thank you, Tyler, for stopping by and sharing your thoughts with us after this one. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you'd like to thank or give a shout out to tonight?
First and foremost, I want to shout out you guys. You do a great job every week. It's so much fun to be able to tell my coworkers and friends and family, hey, this is what I do, and they're like, what do you race on a computer? I'm like, here, go watch this. And I just send them a link to a couple of the broadcasts, and they get a feel for it. As always, my wife, who is the one who encouraged me to continue coming down here and even build a sim at home for nights that I'm not at SRG. And Jason Cotcher, the man with the dream. And it's become my little clubhouse here in San Jose. I absolutely love it.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Tyler, for stopping by, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
All right, very good. And folks, I want you to go ahead and subscribe to Slow Motion Broadcasting. Hit that notification icon so that you don't miss any of the action. And we are not just about these fantastic open wheelers here, although tomorrow night we will be back with Sim Racers Group as we travel to Spielberg, Austria for the next round of Formula 3 competition at the Hungaro Ring, and also our Ferrari Road and Oval Challenge we'll take to the high banking of Michigan Speedway. You heard that right, Ferraris on the oval. Then on Saturday, our Weekend Warrior Formula Vs will visit Manicourt, and on Sunday, our Weekend Warriors doubleheader will feature Formula Fords at Rudskogen Motor Center and Spec Racer Fords back here in Mexico, and the XSLR Series will run at Linear Raceway. And 1 week from tonight, SRG Formula 4 will head to Germany to fight it out at Oschersleben, and you're not going to want to miss that. All right. Well, Mexico is in the books. Week 6 is in the books for these fantastic Formula 4 cars and drivers. And that is going to conclude our broadcast for today. So I am J.R. Gregory on behalf of myself, my partner, Kennen Miller, our producer, Racing Ron Maunz, and everyone here at SMB. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are, and look at the bright side. At least it ain't Monday.